There are a lot of methods of poisoning someone, but did you know that your furniture could be the culprit? How do you ask? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hi, welcome back. I'm Lisa Wood, an interior designer in Asheville, North Carolina. And today we're going to be talking about some things that you need to consider when buying furniture. One of my previous videos on furniture buying tips 101, wood versus particle board, was a really popular one, so you might want to check out that as well. But today we're going to dive in on 6 areas that you need to consider when you are purchasing something new for your home. And be sure, if you haven't liked and subscribed, click that bell button to be notified every week I come out with some new content. Last week I spoke about 8 hot home trends that you might want to consider when you're going to remodel. They had some really great ideas, and we did talk a little bit about furniture, but we're going to go into it further today. So let's get started and talk about what you need to know. There's a term in the industry called off-gassing, and it pertains to anything that is made. It could be cars, it can be newspapers, it can be your furniture, your wood flooring, paint. There's so much that that's made with chemicals that's going to be seeping out into the air. And off-gassing are these volatile organic compounds that emit out into the air, and when they're trapped inside your home, that can cause eye irritation and respiratory issues. It is said that since the 1950s, over 80,000 different chemicals have been created. And the EPA and government, it's just hard to really stay on top of all of that. And even if they had everything certified through all of their processes, when we get things over here from China, if they may be green in China, or if they're not and they're made with inferior materials and they're coming over to China, that's one issue. But if they're green, considered green, and they're in that way in China, but then they get onto the containers to come over to the United States, then there's chemicals that can leach into the furniture from the container itself. So there's other factors that come into it just from other than manufacturing. So it's just wise to know. So off-gassing is very important, that if you've got to take those precautions just to keep your home environment healthy and safe. You know a piece has got chemicals in it when it has that new smell. So you know when you've got a new car smell, that's off-gassing. The smell of newspapers, that's off-gassing. And then certain furniture, just depending on how it's treated, you're going to be able to smell that too. The components of the furniture that you want to take into consideration are the frames, the cushions, the fabrics, any type of adhesives that have been used, the finish, and flame retardants or protectorants. So when it comes to the frame, if it's used with particle board, that emits formaldehyde, which is also known as a carcinogen. When you are looking at the finish, if it's an oil-based finish, it's going to be emitting gases. So you want to look for the low VOC or water-based finish. When it comes to the flame retardants and protectorants, you really want to kind of avoid those. And any type of stain-resistant fabric can have those in. So you want to just ask really great questions of the people that are selling you these pieces. And if they don't know, push for the answers. Don't be afraid to find out. What do you look for when you go shopping? Look for hardwood frames. That's considered heirloom quality. That was one of my earlier videos that my friend Wally is showing how he makes his furniture. He uses a 5/4 inch hardwood. When you have particle board, like I said, that is pressed wood, and it's going to be used with products, adhesives, and everything to make it stay together, and the formaldehyde will emit from it, and it can be dangerous to some, especially when it's trapped in an environment. So stay away from it. It's particularly important that when you are buying furniture for your baby and your children, because they can tend to gnaw on the edge of the crib, for example, hardwood is going to be super, super important, and it is worth the investment for sure. Other materials that you want to stay away from with babies are the melamine, because that can emit chemicals too. Look for hardwood frames. If you cannot afford something new out of hardwood, then you might go look at thrift stores for vintage pieces that were made of hardwood. That's a great way to find some affordable furniture that you can refinish and paint and add some new fabric if necessary, and you'll have an entirely new look. And you can do a lot with thrifted furniture. So just remember, hardwood beats any type of particle board. If you do find a particle board piece that you do like, see if it has been labeled green in some way in terms of the quality of it. But again, if it comes over on a container, then it can absorb those chemicals from the container. The other thing you want to look for are water-based finishes or anything that's a low VOC finish. You want to look for natural fabrics when it comes to the cushions and the fabrics themselves. Also mattresses, carpet. You want to look for materials such as cotton, jute, hemp. Again, stay away from the flame retardants and the protectorants. And when you have a piece that comes into your home, open up your windows and let that air out. Another great option is that check with the furniture company that you're buying from and see if they have an off-gassing area, because they can put that in a separate space and let it sit for days and help get those chemicals out of that new piece of furniture. It's important to know that some pieces of furniture and some materials in your home, it can take up to 10 years depending on how it's made before all of those chemicals are out of it. So you can use a dehumidifier, an air purifier, and then just good old open windows. You can look for the seal of approval and certification by several different organizations. The Safer Choice Program by EPA is 1. Green Guard, 2. The USDA, 3, and SEC Global Services. All of these links are down below under resources, so you can dive into those a little bit more to see exactly what they do and what they focus on. Remember, if you are unsure, ask great questions. I tell my kids this all the time. If you ask great questions, you're going to get great answers. So don't be afraid to dive in and learn what you're buying. The quality matters to you. Remember, it is an investment into your livelihood in how you live and function in your home. And you want to have the healthiest environment possible because you and your loved ones are worth it. So I hope that that's good food for thought and you are going to have some great takeaways. Next week, I want to talk to you about how to set up a successful home office. There are still many people who are having to work from home. And if you are an entrepreneur and you are doing Zoom calls with clients, I have got a really fun tip that I think you will enjoy. So definitely tune in for next Tuesday. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell for notification. I would love to hear your takeaways from today's episode because the poisoning of our home is something that we really need to take seriously because there's so many materials that go into it. We need to know what we can do to help eliminate or minimize that. And if you do these tips and getting your windows open and buying as best quality as possible, you shouldn't have any issues. But I will leave you with this one story that I had heard. There was a little girl who had respiratory issues and they could not figure out what was wrong. She had been sleeping on a sofa and laying down trying to recover, and her respiratory just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And they finally figured out maybe it was the sofa. Well, what the problem was is they allowed their pets on their sofas, and they took the fabric off of the cushions, and there was like a ½ to an inch layer of pet fur that had been embedded into the cushion, and she just kept breathing in that dander. And so that is just one example of how our furniture can affect our respiratory systems, our irritation, etc. And so that's why it's so important to really pay attention to look at the types of chemicals, look at the quality that you're buying. Maybe you don't let your pets on the furniture. If you do, put a blanket down and take that off when people are going to sit. Again, be sure to check down the resources because I've got them all there for you. And until next week, you guys take care.